Hi, everybody. It's Monday, December 9th, and this is your Monday Brief. Over the weekend, Donald Trump paid a triumphal visit to Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris and totally dominated the elites gathered there, who could not but show their admiration while they continued to whisper to the press about his alleged fascism. The European leaders gathered there are all basically on the cusp of disappearance, as European populations have begun to revolt just like the US population revolted. Joe Biden's open flirting with Trump was all over the internet, and it caused Trump to troll her by announcing that he was marketing a new line of colognes called Fight, Fight, Fight that even your enemies can't resist. Then he gave a powerful briefing to meet the press where he calmly and authoritatively stuck to his campaign promises, including pardoning all the J6ers. You should look up the whole thing on NBC News and see how the press has distorted it. The link to the whole interview will be put into the description of this show. Also, over the weekend, and what will be our major topic today, the government of Bashar al-Assad fell in Syria, and al-Qaeda or ISIS took over. Joe Biden and Benjamin Netanyahu immediately really were into a conflict as to who actually brought this about. Biden congratulated himself in an address to the nation, noting that the U.S. had funded and supported what are now whitewashed in our news media as rebels for over 13 years in the endeavor to overthrow Assad in what is misnamed the Syrian civil war, which was, in reality, a 13-year American and British-sponsored regime change operation costing billions of dollars. You might remember that Jake Sullivan, our current national security advisor, reminded Hillary Clinton way back when that al-Qaeda was on our side in Syria. We only learned about that missive email through WikiLeaks. At the time, Barack Obama had initiated what he called the Arab Spring, in which one set of long-standing U.S. and British surrogates in the Middle East were overthrown in favor of the long-standing British intelligence asset called the Muslim Brotherhood. At the same time as Iran, the Shiite Islamic State was exempted from regime change by Obama, and in Obama's time, supported. The chief advocate for a Muslim Brotherhood caliphate throughout the states that border on Israel locally has been Recep Erdogan, Turkey's leader, who coordinated the logistics for the Blitzkrieg operation, which over the weekend captured Syria. This was the final state of a CIA MI6 operation codenamed Operation Timber Sycamore. The cover for this operation is the insane idea that democracy can be imposed on this region through rebellions founded in religious war. That's what Joe Biden promised in his remarks about Syria's fall over the weekend. He said we would be committing billions more to building a free civil society in Syria, just like we claim to have done in Iraq, Libya, and Lebanon, which are now smoking ruins of former prosperous states. As the CIA's British scholars Samuel Huntington and Bernard Lewis put it, both of whom were British agents, the confrontation between Islam and Judaism and Christianity is inevitable and is a motivation for which adherents will fight to the death while their colonial overseers loot their countries and profit. Religious wars are the ideal instrument for regime change and population control. They have always been a key element of British strategic policy. Donald Trump has always opposed this operation, but he was systematically lied to by his military and by the traitorous State Department, not to mention the CIA. He issued a tweet over the weekend saying, "Stayed out. We don't have a dog in this fight," which has been his attitude. He tweeted way back in 2013 that our leaders are calling terrorists, actual terrorists, rebels. And they're getting away with calling them rebels because they are so completely stupid. Trump is intensely focused on getting peace negotiations going both in the Middle East and, as importantly, in Ukraine. He points out that hundreds of thousands of people have died needlessly in these wars, which he thinks are just plain stupid, just plain immoral, just plain evil. His intervention in his first administration through the Abraham Accords interrupted the deep state plan, in effect since the Bush administration, to entirely overthrow the governments of Iraq, Syria, Libya, Lebanon, Somalia, Sudan, and finally Iran, as reported by General Wesley Clark way back in 2003. Trump's interruption of the genocide in Ukraine interrupts the Anglo-American plan to bleed Russia to death and institute regime change through attacking their economy and involving Russia in multiple wars, starting with Ukraine, tempting them with Syria recently, and now in the past weeks instituting a regime change operation in Georgia, where Putin also previously intervened to stop an Anglo-American regime change operation, just as he did in Syria back in 2015. As Trump points out, these insane plans have put the world on the edge of thermonuclear destruction. Everything you are seeing strategically right now is aimed at preventing Trump from instituting peace. To show you the insanity, just to take the example, Abu Muhammad al-Jolani, his new name, his birth name was Ahmed al-Sharia, the leader of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, HTS, the group that spearheaded the surprise offensive, said Syria would become a beacon for the Islamic nation, i.e., a big point in the so-called Syrian Caliphate project of Turkey and also ISIS. He was or is a member of al-Qaeda, was lieutenant of al-Baghdadi, the leader of ISIS assigned to Syria, fought our troops in Iraq, and has his bounty on his head by the FBI to the tune of $10 million for murderous activities against Americans. In the CNN interview arranged for him by the CIA over the weekend, he characterized his head-chopping murder spree as the result of adolescent and youthful excess, which he has now outgrown. Rewarded with modern weapons from Ukraine and assuredly massive amounts of money from both Qatar and the U.S., he now claims to be close to a pluralist Democrat, or so Joe Biden and CNN would have you believe. No one targeted for regime change in the Middle East by the British or the U.S. is a hero or a saint. It is foolish beyond belief to take that attitude. Gaddafi, Mubarak, Saddam Hussein, the Assad family, the former Shah of Iran were all put there to keep their populations in check and to suppress dissent and war with each other in order to prevent the emergence of a developing sovereign nationalist state in the area, which might assert a national interest over the raw materials looting done by their colonial overseers. In 1916, Lord Herbert Samuel set out the British strategy for the area. Neither the Jewish state nor any future Palestinian or similar entity could be allowed to ensure their security alone, without imperial interference. To that end, Zev Jabotinsky was supported totally in his advocacy of revisionist Zionism, the belief system guiding the actions of Benjamin Netanyahu. So too were the various assets of the Muslim Brotherhood and other Saudi Salafist fundamentalist sects, the two main cults set up by the British for forever warfare. We have not learned, obviously, the lesson of blowback. Zbigniew Brzezinski did the same thing in Afghanistan, famously. He used Sunni Muslim terrorists to attack the Russians. The result was 9/11. Brzezinski was totally schooled in British strategy and hatred of Russia and never ever represented an actual American strategic interest. In other regime change operations over the weekend, a Romanian court, acting at the behest of the international oligarchy, nullified the free and fair democratic election in that country, which had elected a candidate who was pro-Trump in anti-Ukraine war. The elites in Europe, hoping to defeat the revolt of their populations, are moving increasingly toward outright fascism and totalitarianism, and that, rather than the ripping off of the United States, which is also happening, should be the argument for the U.S. leaving NATO and, for what I advocate, ending the special relationship. Reflecting on all of this over the weekend, I thought invariably about the famous address by John Quincy Adams in which he announced that America does not go abroad seeking monsters to destroy. That is indeed the foreign policy intention of Donald Trump. He is singularly focused on ending the forever wars which are destroying our national honor. Since they started at the end of World War II, they have turned us from a great country into an imperial pawn of the British, slowly, deliberately, but increasingly so, and in rapid fire under Obama. In its address, delivered July 4th, 1821, Adams set forth the meaning of our Declaration of Independence and human history. In a critical part of the address, he mocks the British criticism of the United States that says that the young nation has not equaled the empire in useful discoveries and inventions. What has America done for the benefit of mankind, the British had sneered. Adams says, let our answer be this. America, with the same voice which spoke herself into existence as a nation, proclaimed to mankind the inextinguishable rights of human nature and the only lawful foundations of government. America, in the assembly of nations since her admission among them, has invariably, though often fruitlessly, held forth to them the hand of honest friendship, of equal freedom, of generous reciprocity. She has uniformly spoken among them, though often to heedless and often to disdainful ears, the language of equal liberty, of equal justice, and of equal rights. She has, in the lapse of nearly half a century, without a single exception, respected the independence of other nations while asserting and maintaining her own. She has abstained from the interference in the concerns of others, even when the conflict has been for principles to which she clings as to the last vital drop that visits the heart. She has seen that probably for centuries to come, all the contests of that bloodland constituting the European world will be contests of inveterate power against emerging right. Whenever the standard of freedom and independence has been or shall be unfurled, there will be her heart, her benedictions, and her prayers. But she does not go abroad in search of monsters to destroy. She is the well-wisher to the freedom and independence of all. She is the champion and vindicator only of her own. She will recommend the general cause by the countenance of her voice and the benignant sympathy of her example. She well knows that by once enlisting under other banners than her own, were they even the banners of foreign independence, she would involve herself beyond the power of extrication in all the wars of interest and intrigue, of individual avarice, envy, and ambition, which assume the colors and usurp the standard of freedom. The fundamental maxims of her policy would insensibly change from liberty to force. The frontlet upon her brow would no longer beam with the ineffable splendor of freedom and independence, but in its stead would be substituted an imperial diadem, flashing in false and tarnished luster, the murky radiance of dominion and power. She might become the dictatoress of the world, she would no longer be the ruler of her own spirit. This is Trump's intention. It is what is at stake in the nominations of Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, and less controversially, John Ratcliffe at CIA and Marco Rubio at State. We can win all of these by keeping ourselves mobilized as we did last week and fighting, 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 as Trump instructs us. We have to recapture that spirit in our country, which Trump seeks, a spirit actually advocated by JQA and abandoned in our post-war universe. Thanks very much for listening. Susan Kokinda will be with you on Wednesday to update you. If you can, and if you appreciated this summary, please contribute freely to Promethean PAC and Promethean Action. I'll see you again on Saturday.
Thanks for watching. Please take a moment and subscribe to our free newsletter at prometheanaction.com.